episode of Everybody Hates Black Men. I'm your host, Edward Anderson, Vertical Edition. Don't worry, I'm going to re-upload this video, and shout out to the replay gang. And I'm just going to go in, but I'm going to re-upload this video maybe in a couple of days. But I just wanted to talk about, you know, what the end game is. Because a lot of people try to play this game about where are we going here. What's the end game? What do you know? A lot of things that particularly black men like to use, because black men are scared as hell. They just are. And once you understand how to deal with that, like understand that, you understand a little bit how to deal with that. So what am I talking about? So, and I get what y'all saying. I'm listening to some of my videos. I'm seeing a lot of the background noise. So I definitely understand where you all are coming from with that. But I'm sitting here listening to some of these videos, some of these chicks saying some of the goofiest stuff. And one woman, which I got a couple of videos coming out with her, because she's one of these, you know, she's one of these Caribbean chicks that want to talk about trifling men, but you know, depending on when you find her, she'll go spells talking about trifling women. And I need you to really understand the women do not matter. The women do not matter. And this is what I mean when I say that. If men are on the same page with certain basic rules, the women cannot get away. It's not about power or having money. It's really about them not be able to do stuff with certain men. This is why the women this is why women use terms like pick-me's, female identified, because they understand that if they don't, it's like the 300 where like that thing to break the phalanx move that they did as a group that made it hard, even though they were dealing with overwhelming force. As far as numbers, as long as they kept that phalanx together, they were good. Until the dude, like that Quasimodo looking dude that couldn't make the Spartans, showed them how to break the phalanx by going around, and that's what got them, you know, killed. It's the same thing with the men. And part of the end game is this cannot be perceived as a gender war. I do not gender war with women. That is not what I do. What I do is I say, okay, what do we need to do to actually be a competitive community? Make no mistake, economics is the ultimate game. And you are either playing it or you are being played by it. This is why when people talk about gentrification, black people are always on the receiving the wrong end of gentrification rather than being the gentrifiers. White people are not always the gentrifiers. Sometimes it's Indians, sometimes it's Hispanics. And what this shows is, as a group, we are not moving together. Women do not build, they nest. This is why women are always on the receiving end of gentrification, because if they nest without men, then it's not hard to get them up out of there, even if they're not necessarily on Section 8. And this is what a lot of people don't do. The name of the game really is to get black men on the same page on certain basic level things. Black men do not have to agree as a group on a lot, but there are certain basic things that black men have to agree on. Let's be very clear here. Black men need to lead in most situations. There's a difference between leading and delegating. And the problem is, black men, I don't care, they may not admit this, but the way they move tells the tale. Black men do not believe that black men really should be leaders. Black men have this egalitarian idea of certain things, and they believe that women, that their woman should be equal to them. Well, if you believe that you have a greater burden when it comes to setting that, because that woman does not believe in setting you up. That woman believes you're supposed to be an island onto yourself. But she believes in you taking care of her. Nobody really disagrees with that. So if you don't disagree with that, then that means you have to take care of yourself and her. This is why they can pass the blame and pass things on to you and say it's your fault that they're not good. See, you can't do that with them. So by that definition, the greater burden is on you, right? And so that requires leadership. That requires you running the stuff. I do not believe in letting a woman does not let me lead. I have enough leverage that she's either going to comply or she's going to get gone. If you cannot compel a woman to do something she wants to do, she doesn't want to do, you're not a leader. If you cannot compel, you don't have leverage and you're not a leader. Having somebody do something that they always want to do is not leadership. And the problem is, women are generally not willing to do the hard things and that's required in order to be competitive. You can look at what they do for themselves. Overweight, very sexually aggressive, anti-feminine. They choose to put more energy into telling you to accept trash. Now, some people would say, well, isn't that what men say? No. I openly tell you, go get the best you can get. And if you're relatively attractive and you're by yourself, that is because you are a fucking loser. That is why. Because what you want, you are not good enough to get it. And your results speaks for itself. If you can get what you can get, take Venus Williams, for example. Venus Williams could have done a lot better than the white boy she ended up getting. The problem is Venus Williams puts a premium on whiteness. That's her problem. And that's the best she can do if she's going to get a white boy. That's the difference. Now, when black men do that, black men are going to get clowned. Even though if black men sacrifice looks, there's other things you can get behind on the other side of it. Take LeVar Ball, for example. That's not true with a lot of black women, unfortunately, because we have an overarching culture. That's why people like to say some but not all. We're either in a Keisha culture or we're not. We're either in a matriarchal culture or we're not. And so the end game is really to get men on the same page. And the first, you have to identify black men that are bad actors. And that's something our space has not done the greatest job in doing. That's an oversight. But you have a lot of bad actors. You have a lot of dudes that they like to emotionally pimp women. I call them dudes emotional dope dealers. You have niggas that they use women to subsidize their economic. You have economic incels. What is an economic incel? That's a new term. What is an economic incel? Is somebody that does not have the ability to properly compete in this economic in the economic environment. So they try to change the subject, or they try to use anything but any other currency, sexual currency, not even their own social currency. They try to latch on to other social currencies. This is why a lot of dudes are very this is why a lot of dudes have so much of a stake in street culture being the main culture, or taking a lot of the pie of the percentage of black culture. Because the bigger street culture is, the easier it is for them to lean on that. Let's keep it real. A lot of reasons why niggas love street culture is because it's a way for ugly niggas to lean on a certain type of masculinity and still get chose in the black community. This is why a lot of niggas are very invested in the grimy, slimy. I'm not saying that can't exist, but they want that to be the only thing that exists. They want the women to be imprinted to that. And that would be fine if that could make a competitive community. It doesn't. This is why a lot of these niggas lost their minds over Kevin Samuels. Even guys like Jason Black that tries to act like he's above it. Anybody that's seen a picture, look, man, ugly game. And this is not a colorism thing. It's not. I'm not talking about that. But like niggas that look the dusties of the dusty. I see the super chats. Give me a minute. And I definitely appreciate it. They don't want economics to be in the question other than some 50-50 stuff. See, even a women only view economics with how much a man is spending on them. They don't want black men to get sophisticated in their economics. Your ability to create an environment around you that when they're on your turf, it makes it very difficult. It's not just tricking on women. It is you creating assets. Let me give you a perfect example. Imagine you own property. You have a property portfolio. You have apartments. Imagine you have apartments, and not even apartment complexes, but you have houses. Let's say you have like 30. You've built up a portfolio. You're 40-something years old. You built up a portfolio of 30 houses. Now, on the face of it, that's not going to be obvious money that is appealing because it's not fast money, right? But if you have vacant apartments, and for those of y'all that don't know, apartments is, furnished apartments for like medical students. I've heard SWP talk about these things. There's different type of apartments other than a blank ass apartment that's waiting for a Section 8 person to go in there. You have certain abilities. You have certain abilities to see people's incomes based on how they apply for your stuff. You have certain things that regular people are not going to have access to necessarily just by the process of you doing that. You have places that may be vacant. These are places that you can fuck a bitch in. On some 007 type shit. If you have furnished places because of what city and stuff you're in or proximity you have, whether it's medical students or regular students, sometimes you got to exchange the damn TV. Sometimes you got to exchange the couch. Sometimes when people are moving out, they don't want to move all that crap out, so you handle it and you can take some of the good shit. You can give that shit to a bitch. Or if you have certain connections with local suppliers, because you have to supply certain things like TVs and stuff, you might be able to get these things on a discount. So you may be able to hook a bitch up. You can actually do a lot for a chick that doesn't really cost you a lot because it's within the realm of the orbit of what you're already doing. By the way, some of this stuff low-key can be tax deductible. You're just assigning it a certain way. These are things that people don't think about. I'm not necessarily saying provide a chick to say, but you have certain access to certain things. Just by proxy of the situation you're in. I know Marty's never told you, Marty has quite a bit of property. Marty actually has a hotel he's investing with investors. He's a big investor in Colombia. If y'all are on his Patreon, you would know that. I'm not going to give all, Marty's not necessarily who I'm talking about, but just to give you an example of what I mean. Marty might have property in another country soon. I'm not going to say which, because that's his business to tell. But it's not it's not Brazil, it's not the typical places y'all have heard talked about, but it is in Latin America. Marty having a stake in that hotel. I'm not gonna say how much, but it's a good amount of money, and it's pretty much built. He showed me pictures and all of that, and it's a legit hotel. That gives him access to certain stuff. This is what Marty keeps trying to tell you about doing shit at a high level, not the way you niggas do it. The point is that it's not about direct cash transactions. And here's the thing, that's not that even with direct cash transactions, do not be fooled. I even am surprised by what certain people tell me and show me about how much it actually takes and how low it takes. BGS is not lying. It is not, nigga. If you got $400 to $400 that you can give to a bitch, and you give that bitch that money like month over month over month, stop giving that chick that money once she gets used to it. Do not believe that these women that these women don't care about no $400. That's that fast money spending. Glendon has talked about this in the past, by the way. Before, you know, he got hemmed up on like the video he put out. You would be surprised. He was talking about that with white women. You would be surprised, man. A lot of these women are capping. If they're not like it's 7 and up, they're capping. They're capping their ass off. And so my point going back to it is, black men believe in throwing other black men under the bus because they see women as the leaders of the community. Notice how black, and so my point is, a lot of this stuff is more irresistible than these women. And I'm talking about in the United States. A lot of these women, these things, it's not just about tricking on women. It's also about making the offer, understanding the offers to make that's very hard for them to refuse, and understanding what you bring to the table. Because if you know you look a certain type of way and stuff like that, and again, people will say, oh, you talk about tricking. It's not about tricking. This idea that niggas, like, do not ever believe that a nigga is just out here fucking a bitch and that bitch ain't doing nothing for her. If he ain't doing nothing for her, then that means that he's providing, that means he's capable of extracting stuff from that chick based on the sex he's providing. And there's very few dudes that are doing that. Do not believe, especially with women, unless a woman has an asterisk on them. These women are getting something from somebody. Do not believe that all of these niggas are just not doing nothing. That's a lie. They're lying. They just have made it so what they're doing, they don't really register. Even if they're not giving money, they're doing something for these chicks. Do not believe they're not doing nothing. It's very few men that are doing absolutely nothing for these chicks. Very few men. They may not be giving them cash, but they're doing something. They're doing favors. They're doing something. Or the bitches they're dealing with are ugly as fuck. One of those things are true. Either they're dealing with bitches that are just happy for anybody to be there, that they like how they look a little bit, and we've seen that. Skinny ass niggas, big ass hoes. So if that's not the case, they're lying about how these chicks look. Shout out to B Rain with the $50. Much appreciated, man. Much appreciated. Especially coming in clutch at the end of the month. New Year's Eve is on Wednesday. Shout out to you coming at the end of the month. And then shout out to, you know, Christian as always. I don't like to necessarily give people's full government name. And Christian says with $10, you need to create an environment in household where your presence being removed is like cutting off electricity and water. Not they dependent, but need your underwriting to survive. Now people are going to hear that, women are going to hear that, and they're going to think controlling and think all that. No, that's not what Christian is talking about. What Christian is talking about, I've heard of being trapped. Being trapped in comfort. Meaning they will try to tell you, people will try to tell you to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Because if you're trapped in comfort, because there's a real thing being trapped in comfort. This is one of the reasons why they tell you porn is bad. Because if you're trapped in comfort or trapped in comfortable situations, things like apathy takes hold, laziness takes hold. And what Christian is basically telling you is to engineer things that make a woman so comfortable that you removing your presence from that key being turned So if she leaves you, there are things she's gonna have to do, and you've heard women allude to this. There's things they're gonna have to do for themselves that they don't want to do for themselves because they're so used to you doing it. And it's not just basic stuff. Because a lot of y'all are gonna think basic when you hear this. Make it so no matter what, she cannot replicate what you do with you not there. And so it's not just about the money. Part of it, for instance, a lot of celebrities, if you don't, a lot of parties, this is a basic way of saying something. If you are somebody that you're not a celebrity yourself, but you're connected to a celebrity because maybe you married into it, blah, blah, blah. If that celebrity is not there, you're not being invited to parties and stuff. Now, if you a cute bitch, somebody's gonna find a way. But if you're not like that kind of attractive and you're not being invited to these parties, you are the plus one. That's like as basic as I can get. But we're not celebrities, right? So you need to create an environment around you. I call it personally the Great Gatsby method, where Great Gatsby created a party around his house designed to attract who he wanted to attract. You have to create that around you. And it's not necessarily to jump up and down, beat a fly nigga. It's not about that. It's not necessarily being a trick nigga either. But like, for instance, you have to create an environment. Is not just where you live. It's the environment that is around you that follows you around. Like if you're a certain type of person, for example, that like a big way of looking at this, I mean, it's like your business. Like if you do investments or you have a business, let's just keep it real. Let's say you're somebody that just for shits and giggles, because I want to keep this really basic. Let's say you have a a car detailing business. Something that anybody could start if they're willing to put in the effort. A car detailing business, put in the effort to learn. If you have a car detailing business and you actually have it and it's successful, you actually have, you know what, fuck all that. I got one for you. Marty talks about this all the time. So let's say you're in, and Marcus does this to a certain extent. Let's say you have a skill like photography. And then when I say photography, I mean you actually know about the lenses, the cameras, you've done a couple of things, you've done some pictures, whatever. You having a skill in photography does a couple of things. Being a photographer is an icebreaker because in today's social media climate, you can take pictures anywhere. Like if you're actually any kind of good, you can take pictures of graduations, marriages, graduation pictures for people graduating. It's not just in the spring. It can be in the winter as well, depending on where you're at. I see that all the time in NC State. You can take pictures with people when it comes to marriages, getting married, getting their vows renewed. Obviously pictures in the local area when it comes, they want to do professional pictures with Instagram. This is an ice of business pictures and videos for businesses. Even if you're not going to charge them out the ass, this is an icebreaker for a lot of things, especially if you know what you're doing with the camera. You don't have to be an expert, but if you know what you're doing, this actually, especially in today's digital social media content and stuff like that, this is actually a universal icebreaker. In fact, this is really a very strong piece of game. I've actually told Marty he needs to create an ebook or something around this. Like how to do it, how to get into it. Marty could literally create a course around how to go from amateur to professional. And Marty does photography really as a hobby, but he got really into it. And stuff, especially with AI, because AI is just something he added into his toolkit. And as an icebreaker, this is not only something that can ice break for potential money, but this is also something that puts you in certain social climates. So I need to really come up with a list of different things that can do what photography does, at either lesser than or better than, but like in the same orbit. But the point is, if you have this skill with this camera, not to mention you have a business that you can deduct things on, deduct a lot of things on. A little, hobby business, right? The thing is, gives you a reason to be in these situations. This gives you value, so you don't have to necessarily be the prettiest nigga or be the tallest nigga. This gets around a lot of things, and if people like your pictures, obviously this can have you tap into social currency as far as internet and stuff like that for your own stuff. This is actually like I actually might jump into learn how to take pictures just for this purpose, adding it onto my AI stuff. But my point is that you can use that as a hub to build an environment around. What do I mean when I say environment? Your network is your environment. How many women do you know that you're taking pictures of? You might have cracked, even if you haven't cracked. You're tapping into those female networks because they want their pictures done. They may want their pictures done, and you may give them a discount depending on whatever hidden agenda you're trying to do. Because to you, it's just a hobby anyway. This gives you access to other people that may have photography studios and stuff like that. This gives you access to what are the local studios in your area. This may give you access to other podcasters or other people that are getting married and network. I've talked to you about this when it comes to Uber. This gives you a skill environment and a certain virtual. It's not really about digital virtual, but a environment with who what your networks is, little money you may make, or little money, whatever. You get what I'm saying? That's what I mean about environment. Some people use their job as an environment. This is where you could get in trouble. But obviously where you work, networks, people that used to work in your job, blah, blah. You got to be careful with that. But you leverage your ability to move in your turf and things you do all the time in order to find ways of getting at. It's like having investments. It takes money to make money. Meaning if you have money, you're using investments to make more money, which is providing you time freedom. It's the same thing when it comes to environment. And it creates an aura of mystery. I know I'm turning this into like some gang shit, but my point is, that's something that gang niggas never talk about and people never really talk about. And so I'm saying all this to come back to the point. You have to create leverage. Is not about dragging a woman, kicking and screaming and doing things. Leverage is about creating the fear of missing out. FOMO is a form, fear of missing out is a form of sales leverage. Now, obviously, they have to want the offer. Obviously, they have to be somewhat interested. Obviously, they have to have a little bit of know, like, and trust. And you put them in a position, it could be a complete lie, but you say, hey, I may raise, like, for instance, with my AI content on my Patreon, I tell people straight up, I may raise my prices. And that's absolutely true. My prices are a certain amount because I'm trying to get people in here and just get my confidence up that people will buy what I got to produce. What I have to produce. But once I get that confidence where I need to be and I get that to a certain number, the people that are in my month to month, then they're fine. I'm going to keep them, but I'm going to create another one. I'm going to say these are OGs or founders. The rest of y'all are going to have to pay the higher price. The higher price. So it's the same thing with, if you're selling a product. If people are selling a product, especially a digital product, they'll bring people in there and they'll say, for people that bought this initially, you're going to get a special price because they're trying to get them initial sales, getting people. It's like a soft launch, getting people to mess with it. It's just like, think about it. It's just like with apartments. When they used to, discount apartments for the first 6 months because they need to pack people in here. They don't have to do that out here because this area, so many people are coming down here that they don't have to do that. That fear of missing out, it gets people to move. It's the same way. Just like if you got women competing for you, if you deal with other races of women, and there's dudes that I know that they deal with other races of women, and they use that to leverage the insecurity of black females, and they're able to crack black females. Just, they'll literally lie and say, I ain't never been with a black girl before, knowing good and goddamn well they deal with more black women than they don't. They done fuck more black women than they have it. But what essentially they do, but because the women don't know that, and these are not dudes that are necessarily like select men, and then chicks fall for that shit. Anyway, so it's about men creating leverage to compel. Compel does not mean dragging them against their will. Although sometimes that is necessary. That's what black men are scared of doing that as a group. So anyway, shout out to Christian Hutchinson once again. Own a oil change shop. Your girl and her homegirls family can get their oil change and fuel top off just because that's a non-direct transaction. Absolutely. Let me give you another example that doesn't even require ownership, because I don't want to make it like this is some unattainable shit. Fuck owning. Like, Christian is absolutely right. But let's take that off the table for because we know how niggas are when it comes to money. Fuck that. Even though Christian is right, fuck that. Nigga, you can work at fuck owning the shop. Nigga, you can work at Jiffy Lube and do stuff outside of using their facilities. You don't believe me? I know a guy. I'm not gonna say where it's at, but it's not like far. It's convenient. Let me say that. I know a guy. It's a black dude. Shout out to the oil change places that works at one of these fast oil change shops. Right? And they use cash. They do the oil changes, and rather than paying the shop, you pay them. And they give a discount based on that. So rather than something being like, if you use synthetic oil like I do, being $100, the shit is like 80 or 75. Well, hell, that's a $25 discount. And for somebody that gets oil change as much as I do for various reasons, that's not bad. Same dude, brakes, rotors, cash. Same dude, fuel change. Pretty much anything the oil change shops can do, they do. And they do it outside. And it's one of the chains. It's not like official gas, and they just work there. So I'm not even necessarily talking about. It doesn't even have to be you own this shit. Now, obviously, if you own it, if you own a business, you obviously have a lot more you can do with that, because now it's just cost of service, or what is that cost, which is going to be a lot less, which is Christian's talking about. And this is why it's not necessarily about owning a business. It's about, do you have ownership in business? Jewish people would rather have 10%, have a percentage in 10 businesses than necessarily own a business, because that's a time freedom thing. It also gives you leverage because you have connections. This is what black people don't understand. I've alluded to this. It's not just about what's done on the front end. It's also what you can do in the back end. Getting in the supply chains and stuff like that. Even when, like, for example, let's say, you trying to get clothes and stuff like that, having access to that. People don't think about that. Black men don't think about that. See, the problem is, you don't have to get all the women on the same page. You just have to get the women that will do it versus the women that won't do it, the women that benefit. This is the reward punishment mechanism that you create in order to get women on your side. Because as I said at the beginning of the video, once it stops being about a gender war, then the women lose a lot of credibility on a lot of stuff they're saying. And the problem is, you may not own a business, but can you have a stake in one? So when you look at small business, like I know a dude, I was telling you a couple of weeks ago about that seafood place. That dude has another location. Black owned businesses. Maybe you don't own it. To own something, you just got to have 51% of it. But they may have stakes in that business that gives them income based on what the business does. But this is the type of stuff they're not going to teach you in school. And this is the type of stuff other groups understand, because they understand this as a way of getting money. I've told you before, I'm going to tell you again. If you have $1,000,000, I'm not saying this is necessarily how it is today, but if you have $1,000,000 times 6% is $60,000 a year. $60,000 a year divided by 12 is 5,000. With taxes taken out, you're doing, let's just say 4,000. It's 4,000 change, but let's just say 4,000 to keep it simple. So obviously, if it's 500,000, so if you have 100, let's say you have 100,000, then that's like 400. That's how you think about that. That people will say, well, 100,000 times 400, that's not a lot of get back. But it's not just about that. It's about, because in a business, this is what Glennon keeps talking about having a business versus investing. Which is why, even though people be hating on Glennon, well, I always tell y'all, Glennon is actually a really good bridge to a lot of this stuff. But you gotta be serious. And he's not the only one that knows this stuff. There's people closer to home. So my point is, these are things that create leverage. But a lot of dudes are scared of leverage because they see leverage as abuse. The end game is to create a situation where the women that comply benefit, the women that don't, we have a hostile environment. That's what the white women, the broke bitches are broke bitches are fucking they are misbehaving bitches. Or these chicks that they may not be broke, but they masculine as hell because they gotta do the work themselves, and that shit grinds their gears. Shout out to D Scott. I've done weddings, couples events, and many different things because I walk around with the camera, impromptu photo shoots, and meeting others in my area. The network, it is valuable as fuck, nigga. Like, I'm gonna keep it real with you, truth be told. Driving for Uber, if you know where to be and when, is valuable as fuck, because people be like, oh, I can't drive Uber all day and every day. You don't have to. Just do reservations. If you were to do reservations in the morning, you're picking up the business class and they gotta fly out all the time in the morning, especially on Mondays. If you know where to be when, nigga, you just gotta know where to be when. You pick up people at night, you gonna catch some people if you know what you dealing with. You just gotta know where to be strategically when. Even if you Uber, and that's something basic. Even if you Uber, because it's not just door dashing, you got people in the car starting up conversations. You pick up a lot of these students, some of these international students. You can like, for real, especially if you got motion on certain shit. Even on the internet, if you know how to cook and you know how to do something, you can actually use that. Like there's different reasons. I've seen older people, I've seen people, like, it's different reasons to get, like, people are not thinking about it this way. And my point is your ability to leverage as a group. Some of these things have to be done as a group. And the problem is black men are scared to do that. So the end game is to basically get black men on a similar page on certain things and get certain standard operating procedures and getting these young dudes in line with that. Is it going to be everybody? No. But the problem is, if we can get like 1% can get 10%, and 10% can pretty much control everybody else. And when I said identify bad actors, I mean that. Identify the simps, identify the matriarchs, the simps, the emotional dope dealers, the straight savages, the breeder niggas is trying to get you to subsidize. There's the single mothers they keep creating. He said end game. Well, the problem is, if you say go back to patriarchy rather than explaining what that is, most of these motherfuckers don't even really understand what patriarchy actually is. Matthew, they actually don't. If you really Ask people to explain it. They don't know how. Appreciate all the super chats as well, man. Much appreciated. Appreciate Evil Genius with the Cash App. JD Aesthetic with the Cash App. As always, I haven't forgot about the Guyanese Pop Princess video. I got like a whole video. It's going to have chapters in it. That's probably going to be like an hour long where I just go through everything. That way I can get people caught up. And it's going to have a lot of stuff involved in that. Dang, that crap is closed. Well, you keep saying, but here's the problem, dude. When you say have control over women, that's very vague and it doesn't really say anything. Let's be very clear. You're not going to have legal control over women. That's not going to happen. Like, that's not going to happen. Period. So that's wishful thinking. I'm not going, these things that I'm saying are very necessary. So you say you can't, you have to create the environment that gives you the leverage to even be able to pursue being able to compel women to do anything. And that's the actual work. It's like saying the goal is to be able to drive from point A to point B. The goal is to be able to get from point A to point B in a minute. To drive, to get 1 mile in a minute. Well, in order to get 1 mile in a minute, you need a car, because you can't, or a motorcycle. So you have to get that. In order to get it in a minute, you have to be able to get that car to 60 miles an hour, where the speed limit might impede you from doing that. You see how that works? So when you just say, yeah, the goal is to have control over women. No, the goal is to create the environment that compels them to comply. That's what the goal is. Not to have control over women. That's what the goal is. Because if you just say have control over women, that doesn't really mean anything. Because if I then ask you, how do you have control over women? Then it's going to be like, you're not going to know what to say. Well, you just control them. For example, let me ask you, when you say have control over women, how do you individually control a woman? How do you control women, Matthew? Let me ask you that right now, just to prove my point. We don't have to compel them. We'll use force. Men are stronger. That's illegal, Matthew. Have you used force to make a woman do what you want? Give me an example of a situation where you use force to compel a woman to do what you want. And by the way, even if let's say I agree with that. Here's the problem with that, Matthew. You gotta sleep. You gotta sleep sometimes. And if you're sleeping with that woman, you're completely vulnerable to that woman when you're asleep. By the way, take away their money and rights. Okay, how do you do that? Map that out, because you're just saying shit. Map it out. Because basically, and I appreciate the super chat, but you're kind of implying, based on kind of how you're talking, that I'm just talking around it. And there's no real, all this is fluff, and really just do that. How do you do that in a Western society? How do you give me a legal example? You're saying take away their money and rights. Okay, you're in America. So really map that out, how you do that. Because white men don't believe in that. Even white incels don't believe in that. So how do you do it? How do you do it? Because you're talking, because see, here you said men are stronger, just make women do shit. Okay, well, how do you individually make them to do it? I just do it because I'm stronger. I'm asking you to make the case. See, it's easy to make a statement. It's hard to actually craft these scenarios. I'm actually giving real, tangible solutions based on the argument that I'm making. I'm doing this shit freestyle. This isn't pre-planned. This isn't like, I'm doing this freestyle off the top of the dome. AI is already taking their job. AI is taking everybody's job. AI is just not taking their jobs. AI is taking a lot of jobs of a lot of men that would use money in order to give women incentive to do what they want. So there's not going to be a situation where it's just going to be AI jobs for men and not for women. And even then, AI is not taking every woman's job. AI is redistributing how labor operates. So you'll see more women work part-time versus full-time. And again, you're not talking about what you're doing. That's just a consequence of AI. That wasn't something that was intentionally done. Just like how automation is going to go after a lot of blue-collar jobs. Automation is what's going to deal with blue collar. Automation and AI are two different things. AI deals with more white collar work because it simplifies processes. Automation is robots and robotics and robot stuff. Not necessarily robots, but robot systems. Amazon's a perfect example of this. So you say that, but automation was actually scheduled to go after jobs, blue collar jobs for AI. AI just kind of skipped the bed. So, I mean, you kind of just saying shit. Yeah, man, we need to take away their rights. We need to use force. The problem with using force is other men are going to stop you from doing that. Other men are, if you take that route, you better be willing to kill other men, because other men are going to be willing to kill you to stop you, and they will have the support of the women to do that. So you just kind of talking. This is that kind of Nick Fuentes, I'm just going to say shit and pound my chest shit, versus actually mapping out what you actually need to do. And the reason why I'm taking the time to kind of counter some of the stuff you're saying is because people will look at your chat, look at what you're saying, and then say, and then try to imply that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about creating the environment that benefits you within the current system that we have. If you're talking about taking away women's rights and shit, I mean, and you willing to do that by force, well, you're really talking about something completely different entirely. And by the way, most patriarchies, women do have some rights. You're talking about some Ayatollah, Shiite Muslim, or Sunni Muslim, Shiite Muslim shit, which that fundamentally goes against Western values. And you can't even say, even in Africa, where these women don't have no rights. I'm like, you can have your rights, but there's going to be certain accountability there. For instance, paternity fraud. Anybody out here talking about taking women's rights away, I mean, I'm going to keep it real. You're not serious. Because there is no legal framework in the United States where that's going to be. Even when white women couldn't vote, it wasn't because they just didn't have rights. It was because you needed to, it wasn't because of that. Not to mention, you're going to have to deal with these corporations that's going to run that against you, because it's more profitable for women to operate as they are. So you talk about force. I mean, guns exist. So if you just saying men are stronger, okay, we got guns. Now what? Women can get guns. Like, you're not, like, there's men that, like, what are we talking about? Exactly. So you're not serious. You're not really talking in a serious way. Pearl does that shit to be provocative, but she's not serious. It could be considered a human rights violation. But what happens is you have dudes that they'll come in here and they'll say crazy shit. And what happens is everybody will be like lumped in with what he's saying. I'm not even saying he's necessarily bad, but I'm just saying you say stuff that we all get lumped in because the propaganda makes it so it's useful to say, see, he's like this. Look at what this one random person said on the internet that's nameless and faceless. And we'll take everything I've said and try to say that's really what they want to do, which actually hurts your cause and doesn't help your cause. This is the same thing with Passport Bros. People will sit here and they'll insert crazy people, not saying you're necessarily crazy, but they'll insert pedophiles and people that are actually doing that and blanket everybody. That's propaganda. And a lot of y'all got to be smarter than that. Y'all got to be more aware than that. So when y'all say stuff like, yeah, just take their rights away and all that, it's intellectually lazy. Because number one, that's not going to happen. And I highly doubt you've ever you've ever subdued a woman like that. Where you saying you going to do this shit whether you like it or not. I doubt you've even ever done that for real, individually. Exactly. Which is why I take the time in order to explain it. That's why I'm taking the time to kind of counter what he's saying. And I'm not countering it just saying, oh my God, it's immorally wrong. No, I'm actually giving you real practical examples of why what you're talking about actually doesn't work, and why what I'm talking about is kind of the way you have to go about doing it. See, people want to talk about taking somebody's rights away. Like, to get to where I'm getting to, I don't need to take somebody's rights. I just need to remove the benefit of the doubt that women get. The easiest way to do that is paternity fraud. Because if women aren't doing nothing fucked up, then there's nothing to worry about, right? But if women turn out that they're putting babies on dudes that's not theirs, they're putting jackets on dudes, or they're getting these men to emotionally imprint onto these children, it means you don't give a fuck about the children and you don't give a fuck about that man. Because if men did the equivalent of that, it would be crazy. See, that's how you do that. Because you have to decouple men from the idea that women are just naturally virtuous, which we all know is not true, because humans are not naturally virtuous. It's not about a woman thing. Humans are not naturally virtuous. Human nature is human nature. Human nature is human nature. And so a lot of people get on this stuff and see, don't be like the women. As men, we cannot, when I say be like the women, I'm not saying you're acting like a woman. But what I'm saying is you can't just say crazy stuff. The women abort black male babies, post-birth abortion, talk to the KKK. And say, or dudes in the KKK say, we want you to harm black men. We can't get away with that type of stuff. I'm not saying that I really think that should happen either, but I'm just saying, we can't get away with just saying shit and just be like, we're just saying shit. And I'm humoring you. I'm not like really trying to hammer you or anything. I'm actually giving you the time. I'm actually respecting what you're saying by actually running it through my process, rather than just being dismissive and saying you're wrong, and you're wrong, and wagging my finger at you. I'm actually mind mapping what you're talking about. I'm taking what you're talking about and actually, really explaining it and running it through. I'm not dismissing what you're saying, but it's not just it's wrong. I'm not even saying it is. But the approach won't work in this system, and we wouldn't have got this far if something like that would have worked, because you wouldn't be in the system. I mean, even in communist China, women have a lot of leverage in communist China because there's fewer women than there are men because of their one-child policy. So now you have a whole bunch of men competing for a smaller number of women. And they do want Chinese women. Yeah, but the thing is, force. Ooh, what the fuck? But the way you're going about it is a very antisocial way of going about it. That's the problem. And the way you're going about it is not going to work. Because when you hop like the way you're hopping, you're actually calling upon male violence onto you. Because you have men that have sisters, that have mothers, that have daughters that are willing to kill you to protect them just off the thought. Like, if you have seriously, if you have a thought experiment where you're talking to a dude and you're talking like this to a dude in person, you are going to see where he's going to be in his mind. You could see the violence meter. You could be talking like this purely hypothetical, and you will have men that will want to get violent get violent with you just off a hypothetical conversation. If you talk to a man about taking their rights away and not letting men are stronger, and they should exercise that upon women, you could be having a casual conversation with somebody you don't know and be speaking like this, and that man even if that's not a violent dude, that dude is gonna want to be compelled to be violent with you, because you never know. I'll give you a perfect example. DJ Academics is like 30, 31 years old. Let me verify. DJ Academics is 34 years old, as he's older than I thought he was. And DJ Academics was talking about having sex with a 23-year-old. 11 years, so 23, right? And the dude was there, and he was talking about how, you had sex with my sister. I'm gonna have to see you. I might have to kill you. Like, dude, you could literally see how he was getting angry just off of that. I've been told by Dumper said this, to where, no, at the age that we are now, if you fucking somebody that's like, I'm 39, you fucking somebody that's like 22, 23, depending on how young that dude was when he had kids, that dude could have that kid at 18, 17, and that be a daughter. And then that dude want to harm, and you shouldn't be sleeping with somebody you know. But the point is, they'll get angry just because they're thinking about their daughter. And as emotionally unhinged as some of these niggas are, shit. So a lot of people understand, and then we're not even talking about how the women will gaslight the men into using force against you. When you hear these women talk about, oh my God, even women like, even Melissa Ford's old ass, bitches, 48 years old, talking about, when I hear red pill and I see red pill content, it's scary. It's scary. When they say they're afraid, that is them positioning themselves and sending a signal to say, I want violence. Violence is authorized on this particular group. It's just like when white people do dog whistles, like governors and stuff like that, and then to try to increase the amount of white boys that are on that type of time to do violence against black people and black men. You create a climate. You actually put fuel on that climate, which actually makes a lot of dudes that otherwise would agree that something needs to be done to want to be completely removed from that for their own self-interest. So you don't really understand how what you're doing actually pulls you further from what needs to happen. Yeah. So when people have this anger and this frustration, people have all this anger and this frustration. I'm 39 years old, man. I've been in this game. I've been having this conversation for a long time. So I don't know how old you are, but a lot of y'all are coming in, y'all be coming in this shit hot, and y'all be listening to stuff and not understanding. I know what shit used to be. So again, but even from a pure black pill, efficient, taking morality out of it, the way you're doing it, you're actually calling violence upon yourself. That's not the way I would do it anyway, even if that was an option. Because again, like I said, the women are already cooked in that way. Yeah, man, we need to just force them to do that. All right, they'll just kill you in your sleep. They'll just kill you in your sleep and say they were afraid for their life. That's exactly what's going to happen. They'll kill you in your sleep, pour boiling water on you, stab you in the neck, hit you with a 2x4. Some of these things have happened I'm talking about in your sleep. If you're sleeping with a female, you got to do that sometimes. Oh, well, the men, no. The majority white men are a majority in this country, and white men are not even on that type of time with their women. So what you're talking about is really not feasible at all. It's really just some high testosterone King Kong. I just want to feel good, feel like I got power shit. But in actual practical terms of what you actually need to do to make shit work, it's not going to work like that. You're not in a Muslim country. And even in a Muslim country, they use Islam to justify all that, which means there's certain rules there. Then so be it. Do people want to change? What are they going to do about it besides complain? Yes, it's uncomfortable, but it's no. I gave you a solution. Your problem is I've been talking about solutions. Your problem is you just want to do it. Shit. Well, why don't you just go to be violent on a woman right now? Right now. Why don't you go do that right now? Like, what are you talking about? So now it's because it's not my solution, because it's not your solution, it's not a solution. And that's one thing that doesn't get talked about. A lot of people will ask for solutions, and when you give them a solution, if it's not the solution they want to do, they'll say that's not a solution. No, it is a solution. You just don't want to do it. Just say that. Yeah, we're not even talking about pussy. Yeah, like apparently you're not talking about living with these females. You're talking. I mean, I don't know what the fuck you talking about. I'm a Gen Xer, and my parents were 13 years apart. Father a silent Gen and mother a boomer. What the fuck is what the fuck? He's speaking as if women can't stand up to a fight with men. If certain human behavior became a threat to civilization, those behaviors would be regulated and eliminated. Like y'all saying a lot of random ass shit. Let me go back further. There is a company here running a 30-man crew 3D printing houses. They are building the AI model and automated to be able for one man to run a whole development instead of eventually. Yeah, it probably wouldn't get to the. I get what you're saying. Like maybe they had the capability, but not to doing it. Absolutely. But yeah, people forgot about that. Automation was actually supposed to take over before what you call AI kind of jumped the bed, skip the gun. The country will not let white men be unemployed. No, that's not true. That you don't do that. That's a dumbass statement. That's a dumbass statement you made. The country will not let white men be unemployed. That's a dumbass statement. You clearly don't know the history of this country. You clearly don't know the history of this country. They have no problem with white men being unemployed. White men have been unemployed before. They have no problem with that. I don't know what you're talking about with that. That is, well, I won't say dumbass. That's an ignorant statement. That's very ignorant. That's very lack of information statement. Very lack of, because it's not about that profit. You think they give a fuck about white men being unemployed over profit? The only reason why they would care is because white men might go ham and go violent. That's it. Other than that, they don't care. Then we'll go to war then. See, again, that's just you talking. You just talking. And most of the people that's talking this shit, you're not really serious. You just talking. I can tell by how you just saying shit, you just talking. You wouldn't be one and one just really putting foot to ass like that. You be one trying to send somebody else to do that. I can tell you just talking. Taking one, yeah. You just talking. You just talk. You just puffing your chest out. I can tell you just talking now. What there's I mean I usually was trying to create some good content as a counter argument, but yeah. What is there? Failure understanding human history. Most men don't own guns. Depends on where you live. For all we know, yeah, I mean, well, I've done a good job really explaining my point, and I'm glad, good counter narrative. So, I say why it wouldn't work, because some people, they'll be on that, oh, well, I don't believe in that, but they just saying that for a good effect. I've actually explained why that's not the route to go in multiple different levels. I meet plenty of men feeling uncomfortable when they find out I carry a concealed gun. Absolutely. Taking their rights away isn't a viable solution. It's not serious. And you'll have people that they'll, whether intentionally or unintentionally, they'll come. This is why, it's hard to congregate. This is why it's hard to congregate. This is why it's hard to, do discords. Because you do discords and then people just start saying crazy shit. Like if I have a master discord, like what me and Compassion Callus is trying to do, and then you just have people in here just saying crazy shit. See, they're not accountable. But see, the people that run the discord are going to be accountable. That's what you see with the passport bro shit. You got people going into discords and you got people talking about how to put cameras in certain places, hidden cameras and shit. And now everybody's accountable to the couple of dumbasses that said that. To the couple of dumbasses that said that. You see what I'm saying? You got people going, and who knows? The motherfuckers could be paid to say stupid shit like that. Motherfuckers could be out of Bangladesh and shit, just saying random shit, which is why I typically, on my personal Discord, I don't let people just come in that bitch. You got to do a whole process. I don't know what Sigma's about. What the fuck? He's speaking as if women can stand up and fight with men. Women can, understand something. There's two things you haven't calculated. Number one, women can gaslight men into fighting on their behalf. And the second thing is women can kill you in their sleep. Y'all for some reason haven't accounted for that. That's what y'all don't account for. We're talking about being in actual relationships with women, dude. Your solution is no different than mine. The only difference is yours is going to make the men mad and mine will make the women mad. No, that's not true. Mine is going to make the men. Like, what are you talking about, dude? You're not saying anything. You're not saying anything, dude. Yours is going to make the men mad. How? So how is my solution going to make the men mad? How is my solution going to make the men mad? Explain that. The thing about it is she would never put a face to that. She's going to say that, and I love stuff like that, because what that does is that when women talk like that, all that does is the inverse of what I was telling this guy. All that does is it proves what we're talking about. All it does is it proves what we're talking about. That's all it does. You got a chick that has so much deep hatred for her. This is somebody that if a dude ever did her wrong, she gonna act like the biggest victim. And again, this is also my point in how women try to use men to do their bidding. Like that chick is talking. Because the reality is, it's kind of like, again, women like that are great. Because women like that is they force other women to have to separate from them. When you got women like that, if you can prove you got women that are on that type of time, now they can't hide behind, because there is no excuse for how angry you are with being like that. Because you could just not deal with black people. So when you're on here and you're constantly calling for that, oh, I personally love it. I personally love it personally, because all it does, it makes my job easier. It makes my job easier because a lot of black people don't like to admit that you have that type of rabid, rabies ass type of black females around. No. See, you're not answering my question. You said that my solution will make men mad. My solution is basically telling you how to wield power, and act individually as well as in a group. My solution basically said why men should work together, and my solution basically said how to gain leverage and how to wield it. Your solution was just beat their ass until they want to act right. That's what your solution was. That's really what your solution was. To do what I say, or I'm going to beat your ass. I'm telling you, if you're actually in a relationship with a female, you have to sleep around that chick. And that chick can put a blade in your neck while you're asleep. And you never accounted for that. You just acted like I didn't say that. Because I'm talking about actually being in a relationship. You're talking about like on some women over here, men over there, war bullshit. So you never, and you said my stuff was gonna make them mad. You never answered my question. Don't act like you didn't hear it. How is my solution gonna make men mad? Because my solution is very clear. I'll be back getting this Chinese food. How's my solution gonna make women mad? That's what you said. See, y'all be sitting here saying shit and y'all don't be thinking shit through what y'all be saying. Remember, you're giving me like less than 140 character words, barely sentences. I'm actually giving you a whole formed out thought just off of, because I felt like doing it today. Off the dome. Yeah, even from a communicating your idea and your point standpoint. Good luck using mass communication, or good luck using regular communication. You know, any communication lines you use, whether it's the internet or whether it's whatever, you know, basically what you saying, you just need to physically use force to make them do it. They gonna paint you and anybody even engaged in that conversation. Not even they. I'm talking about men. I'm not even talking about women. I'm just talking about corporations. They're gonna paint you as basically you're a predator, whether you're an abuser, and therefore other men are gonna shut down. So good luck trying to aggregate men to do what you're trying to do. Essentially, what you're saying is, I just need dudes to just magically come together and wake up and have this epiphany, which is not that's a come on, man, that's an antisocial argument. That's not an argument born in somebody actually trying to. So it means you're not really serious. Well, if I don't get my way, society will be over. No, society won't be over. Society will change, but society will not be over. Society, and you're not gonna like being on the side. It may seem like it's over to you, but see, this is not. Come on, man. You can only type less than 200 characters. I mean, yeah, but your stuff isn't even maxing that out. That's fine. I don't care about that. But my point is, either you still haven't answered my question. I asked you answered the question. I talked about the characters, but you didn't answer my question. How will men be mad? How will men be mad at my solution? How is my solution gonna make men mad? I'm assuming mad, frustrated. I'm assuming you mean one or the other. So either way, my solution actually creates clarity as to what you need to do individually and why it's important to vet and network with other men. That's what my solution talks about. And my solution isn't the be all end all, but I give a lot of clarity here. You're just basically saying what you're talking about is the Ike Turner method. Sing the damn song, I'm gonna pull my shoe off and smack the shit out you until you do. What your method is the Ike Turner method. Good luck convincing men to do that. Especially today's men, even the extras and shit. That's all. By mad, I'm meaning distrust in women and less motivated to sustain society. Okay, that's not the same as being mad. We need to use our words, because that's not the same as being mad. And when you say by mad, you say distrust in women and less motivated. So my solution by saying that you have, because what's the difference between what I'm saying and saying, well, you have to have money, you have to have the ability to provide a house with kids that can sustain kids in order for a woman to want to deal with you. I'm just making it more clear and adding extra clarity to what that actually means. How is that going to make women distrust? So I'm saying you have to create leverage. You work hard and self-improve to create leverage. That leverage, it depends on what you're trying to do. To create leverage, to incentivize, to disincentivize behaviors you don't want and incentivize behaviors you do want. How does that create distrust? How is that different than what? And then you said, oh, it makes men not want to work. The issue that makes men not motivated to do shit is ambiguity, the lack of clarity. The thing that no matter what a man does, he cannot achieve the outcome that he's looking for, no matter how modest it is. That is what actually frustrates men and get men want to say, fuck it. Women moving the goalposts. I'm giving you clarity as to why that goalpost moves and how to stop from that goalpost moving and how to make it easy. Because once you create an environment that women want to be in, and once you create, and I'm not talking about necessarily a great house and all that, these are components, then you can just swap a bitch out. If a bitch wants to act right, you just swap a bitch out because you have a system. Even the acquisition is a system. So I'm creating clarity. How is it gonna make men bitter? Men are not bitter. If I say you need game to get women, men are not bitter. What are you talking about? Are you black? Are you black? Because this sounds like some shit a white dude would say. This sounds like entitlement. This sounds like entitlement, sir. Like, what are you talking about? Like, this is gonna make men bitter. As opposed to what? As opposed to women just doing what they're supposed to be doing? Women haven't just been doing what they're supposed to be doing for decades now. Like, what are you talking about? It's gonna make men bitter. So oh shit, I gotta self-improve and I gotta put myself in position to have leverage. And self-improve doesn't necessarily, it's the issue. I told y'all, I don't have an issue with self-improvement. I have an issue with the ambiguity of self-improvement. What is the point of self-improvement? Self-improving. I've given you the point. I've actually given you the code. I could have charged you $300 for what I'm talking about, and it probably still would be very valuable. The point of self-improving is creating leverage through currencies. Economic currency, social currency, sexual currency, genetic currency. Genetic currency can be improved and highlighted, but you kind of got what you got. You know, with genetic currency, but you can definitely maximize it. And emotional currency, aka game. Shit, fuck a lineage check. I'm doing a whole racial check. Fuck a lineage check. And I'm just saying, but I'm not even saying he can't listen. What I'm saying is, what you're saying sounds a lot like entitlement, and typically African Americans, I need black men to be more entitled. That's the problem. This is why other dudes are like, what the fuck are you talking about? Because there's an entitlement. Like, black men have a lack of entitlement. What I'm hearing from you is not saying you're entitled. I'm just saying you're further on that entitlement like measuring stick than most African American men are. Which gives me an indication that there's certain baseline expectations that you expect from women that most black men don't expect without having to do something, which tells me you're either not African American or you're white. It's not a bad thing if you are. I mean, it's not a lot of Matthews that are black that actually put their whole name Matthew. And that's a different conversation, because white men have a different situation with white women. Because truth be told, yeah, white men can kind of be entitled like that with white women, because white women wouldn't matter. White women are number one because of white men. So yeah, I'm not even arguing with you with that. But black men got to worry about what have you two built, what have you done this and done that. White men don't have to worry about that conversation. So it's slightly a different conversation. Because it's like I'm arguing with a wall. Most men can't do that. You're falling for that honey trap. Do what? What is it that I specifically said that most men cannot do? Because what I said, most men can do. Most men can have a fucking, most men can definitely start a business and have an individual business, a hobby business. Most men can do a hobby business. Most men can do detail. I mean, if you can do blue collar work, then you can do those services. Hell, you can do a lot of if you do HVAC, that gives you certain intellectual understanding of HVAC and shit. It becomes valuable if you know how to use it. If you do housework and you fucking do construction, you know how to do most handyman shit. If you know how to put TVs up and shit. So when you say most men, what specifically, what have I said that most men cannot do? Everything I said most men can do. Everything I said most men at baseline of being called a man should be able to do. He said most men don't have the ability to swap women out. Yeah, that's why you have to develop leverage. That's why you have to develop the ability. This is what code for the environment is. Your talk is basically what you're saying is you want a solution that men don't have to do anything to be able to partake in, and your solution is beat them up. That's your solution. Beat them up. Thank you. Okay, good. Now I know I'm talking to a wall. Thank you. He says most men can't self-improve to the point where they have leverage. That is incel talk, by the way. And that's an absolute lie. That is an absolute lie. Most men cannot So what is it when you say self-improve? What specifically about self-improving can most men not do? Most men cannot lift weights. Most men cannot exercise. Most men cannot increase their income. You live in the internet age. What is quality of life? Health, money, time, freedom, relationships. So most men cannot increase their income. Most men cannot improve their health. Most men cannot develop a skill. What is it that most men specifically cannot do? Where's the sticking point? There needs to be a class system. How the fuck do you think you get in the higher class system? Hell, how the fuck do you get in the middle class system? What you're talking about sounds like poverty to me. Hey, what the fuck? The class system, you can move up and fall. You damn sure can fall out of the class system. Again, that sounds like some, do you know who my father is? That's some white shit. Do you know who my father is type shit. You think people in the upper classes don't self-improve? The people in the upper classes usually have time freedom, especially the people that are more. That's what wealth is measured by. There's a bigger point to me responding to everything he's saying. You see how I'm not hesitating. I don't know. I can't predict what he's gonna say. But you see how as soon as he says it, I have a rebuttal and answer, because my shit ain't just based on me just talking. I'm not saying you just talking, but I mean, dude, what are we talking about, man? Niggas can't self-improve. We need a class. Technically, we do have a class system. You do have a class system. Well, what are you talking about? We need a class system. What would a class system do that's not being done now? All women gonna do with niggas in the upper class is just try to extract from them. You see that, what they do with basketball players today. I never said most men had to make six figures. I never said most men can't make six figures in 80K. I never said that. And my brother makes 80K as a warehouse supervisor in North Carolina, by the way, where the cost of living is not the highest. It's not high. And he ain't got a college education. My youngest brother makes 70K at 29 years old. And he don't have a college education. You don't want to know what I make. So you can be a deckhand on a boat and make 100-something thousand. You can go to military and don't anyway. My point is I never said you had to make six figures. That's you projecting. I never said that. I never said that at all. That never came out of my mouth. You never heard me say the word six figures. You never gave me imply. Having a business doesn't necessarily mean you're making six figures. And understand something, my G, six figures, $100,000 a year is about $6,000 a month. So if you're doing a cash business and you're cashing out $6,000 a month, which is $1,500, that is essentially equivalent to six figures. $1,500 a week, that's equivalent to six figures. Truth be told, I was gonna get my car detailed. Dude, the car detailing was the first thing I used as an example. You can detail six cars a week and get $1,500. 7 if you want to pay for what it costs. 7 or 8 if you want to pay for overhead. And that's if you're talking about if you have a static location. Dude said he was gonna charge me $250 to do a full 3-hour job. 3 times 6 is 18 hours. You can do that shit in 2 days. It's easier than you think if you out here. My solution, don't try to feed me the same bullshit. My solutions are micro, nigga. I'm the king of that shit. I already talked to you about macro. That is men networking with other men. But you have to have the ability to network first. And you have to give something for other men to give a fuck about what you talking about. Because if you ain't done nothing yourself, how the fuck are you got the nerve to say something to them about what the fuck they need to do? They won't respect you. So it starts there. All you doing is throwing shit out. Nigga, understand, your solution was beat their ass. You had to whoop that trick. You had the hustle and flow, whoop that trick solution. That's the solution you had. We need to go on. That was your, remember that. That was your solution. You had that whoop that trick. Whoop that trick. Get her. Whoop that trick. All right. Can y'all hear me better now? Okay. Yeah, man. I mean, like I was saying, I was trying to play that "Whoop That Trick" song. But yeah, that's what it is. Whoop that trick. His thing is the whoop that trick solution. Society won't let that happen, dude. How you know what society? I'm 39 years old, man. I've seen a lot of what society will let happen. I'm not trying to just take somebody out because they're younger, but I've seen a lot of shit society has let happen. So that society won't let it happen. That's bullshit. It's bullshit. Bullshit. Society won't let it happen. Society is all shit. There's a lot of people that say they would never get to a point where you'd have to work 2 jobs to survive. Society would never let that happen. But society has let that shit happen. Society would never let house get to what it is. They definitely have. So again, when you talk about my solution is micro. Like again, your solution was whoop that trick. That was your solution. Whoop that trick. Whoop that trick. That's what your solution is. Just whoop that trick. Just like how Nick Fuentes, their solution is if all the Negroes, Nick Fuentes said if all the blacks were in jail, we would have no crime. He had now all these school shootings, but if all the blacks were in jail, we would have no crime. We would just have no crime. That's that Charlie Kirk bullshit. Anyway, y'all, I've talked long enough. I appreciate y'all. Well, shit, man. Well, you 42, so which means you should know better than what you talking about. You not talking like you 42. You talking like you 18. You should know better then. He said society needs men so again, you're saying society needs men under control. You look at what the Indians are doing right now. Other groups are coming in here and doing what I'm talking about. What are you talking about? It's group economics. And the other thing is, so you think society's gonna let men just beat women up? You think that's gonna happen? You think that's gonna happen? Remember, it's what you said. We started here because you went up against what I was talking about, and your solution was whoop that trick. So in your mind, whoop that trick is a more viable solution than what I'm talking about. So remember, all the stuff you talk about what society is gonna let happen, you trying to say society is gonna let whoop that trick happen. That's what you saying. Remember, see, I'm not losing focus on what you were saying. Yeah, I ain't saying my stuff is perfect, but you talking about whoop that trick. You saying whoop that trick basically does what I'm saying it does. It's a better solution. And so a lot of your excuses that you're using about me, you have to make that work for the shit you talking about. And I promise you, I'm talking about having having men participate in the economic system, in a higher level. You talking about motherfuckers just crashing out. Who do you think they're gonna want to deal with first? What I'm talking about or what you talking about? See, now you're not answering the question though. You're not answering. Men already believe men are abusive. It doesn't matter. See, you're not answering. See what you're doing? Come on, man. Dude, we get it. It was a good intellectual exercise. You need to chill the fuck out. Because this kind of rage that you niggas have, y'all need to chill out with that. Because y'all gonna get other people fucked up. You gotta whoop that trick. You the motherfuckers that they be talking about that we gotta answer for because y'all be wanting to say crazy shit. But anyway, y'all, this is Edward signing off. Peace. Oh, he said my solution will make men bitter towards women. So saying that men have to take the knowledge and economics they do have and learn how to use that to leverage it will make men bitter. Because you're saying the same thing now. You already said that before. We already went through that. I think you're projecting. I think it'll make you bitter because in your mind, but we are well past the days that you can just work a 9 to 5 and just, we're way past that, man. This is not the fucking 40s. This is not some fucking Leave It to Beaver. If you're my age, that means you were born in 1985, meaning you know what time it is. Or 1984. Maybe 3. You know what time it is. I don't know why you tripping. Like you don't know. Yeah, check out Accountable Commentary. But even Accountable Commentary not gonna talk about beating their ass. But anyway, yep. I would say, Matthew, check out Accountable Commentary. Check out Dumper. Those are 2 good channels. And those are channels I watch. And no, and they're different. They're different than me. Accountable Commentary is a lot more, you'll like him because he's a lot more ruthless on these bitches, especially Keisha's. And Dumper is more in the field. So they're different from me. Oh, yeah. Oh, you want boots on? Okay, whatever, man. Peace out, everybody.